Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujra and these are the headlines. The United States and Iraq have sealed an agreement to formally end the combat mission in Iraq by the end of 2021. U.S. President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi met at the White House. Biden told reporters that Washington will continue to train and advise the Iraqi military. Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud has arrived in Islamabad. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi received the visiting dignitary at the Foreign Office. It's Prince Faisal's second state visit to Pakistan within a year. In Pakistan, the 73rd martyrdom anniversary of Captain Raja Sarwar is being observed today. He was the first recipient of the country's highest military award, Nishan-e-Haider, for the immense courage he showed during the war against India in 1948. South and North Korea have restored their hotlines over a year in a bid to rebuild strained ties. South Korean President's Press Secretary Park So-hoon said the leaders of the two states have exchanged multiple letters since April. North Korean state media termed the move a big stride in recovering mutual trust and promoting reconciliation. Brazil has recorded more than 500 coronavirus deaths and nearly 19,000 new cases overnight. Meanwhile, Pakistan has logged 39 more deaths and more than 3,200 infections in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.1 million lives and infected more than 194 million people. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. The United States and Iraq have sealed an agreement to formally end the combat mission in Iraq by the end of 2021. U.S. President Joe Biden met the Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi at the White House. These were the first face-to-face talks as part of strategic dialogue between Washington and Baghdad. There are currently 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq helping local forces counter what remains of ISIS. Biden said the counter-terrorism cooperation will continue.
I think things are going well. Our role in Iraq will be as a dealing with it's just to be available, to continue to train, to assist, to help, and to deal with ISIS as it arrives. But we are not going to be by the end of the year in a combat mission.
Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud has arrived in Islamabad. It is Prince Faisal's second state visit to Pakistan within a year. Prince Faisal will hold talks with his Pakistani counterpart, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, and other top officials. Islamabad says bilateral ties and cooperations in various fields are on the agenda. The Saudi Arabian embassy said that the visit is a continuation of high-level engagements between the two countries. For more on this, we are joined by Minal Ahmed, our correspondent, speaking to us from Islamabad. Now, Minahil, as we know that, well, what do you know about the visit of the Saudi dignitary?
The Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia has arrived in Islamabad and is currently at the Foreign Office in Islamabad, where he was received by Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. His Highness Prince Al Saud is accompanied by senior officials of the Saudi government, and according to a statement by the Foreign Office, the two ministers are expected to exchange views on bilateral issues and issues of mutual interest. They will be talking about regional issues as well as international international issues. And His Highness Prince Al Saud is also expected to meet with other dignitaries in Pakistan. The two foreign ministers will give a joint stakeout in a couple of minutes where more details will be given about their meeting and what has been and what the meeting was about. However, so far what we know is that the foreign minister is in the Foreign Office with Shah Mahmood Qureshi and is expected to meet other dignitaries as well.
Meanwhile, Pakistan and Saudi Arabian ties have been robustly progressing after a slight disagreement. Do you believe the relationship between the two countries are back on track?
I think there's no room of doubt left that there is a strained relationship between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Our foreign minister, while talking to the local media a couple of days ago, had rejected these rumors and did confirm, the Saudi foreign minister's visit to Islamabad. Other than that, a few events that took place in the past few months, be it our Chief of Army Staff General Bajwa's meeting with the Saudi Armed Forces Chief of General Staff, where they both did agree to increase the military cooperation. Other than that, the Saudi government had also released 63 prisoners that were languished in jails in Saudi Arabia on the occasion of Eid al-Adha, which was highly appreciated by the Pakistani government. The Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi had said that this step did double the happiness of the occasion on Eid al-Adha. Other than that, the Saudi government had also agreed to resume oil facility on deferred payments of which is a huge step, and I think these events that took place in the past couple of months do indicate that the relationship between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia is not strained at all, and in fact, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has a long-standing relationship with historical importance, and the two countries have always looked up to each other, and I personally think that there's absolutely no room of doubt, and this meeting of the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia is of key importance, which also tells that how close Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are, and it is an important step to deepen cooperation between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia.
Manahil Ahmed, thank you so much for the update. Now, the Pakistan Army has returned 46 Afghan soldiers, including 5 officers, to Kabul. The military's media wing says the personnel were amicably handed over along with their weapons. In a statement, it added that the repatriation took place at Nawabaz border crossing in the tribal district of Bajor. The Army says Pakistan will continue to extend all kinds of support to our Afghan brethren in times of need. The troops had requested safe passage into Pakistan after losing a military post on the Pak-Afghan border. The Army noted that in early July, it had given refuge to a group of 35 Afghan border forces under similar circumstances. In Pakistan, the 73rd martyrdom anniversary of Captain Raja Muhammad Sarwar is being observed today. Hailing from the city of Gujarkhan, he was the first recipient of the country's highest military award, Nishan-e-Haider. He showed immense courage during the war against India in 1948 and inflicted heavy losses on the enemy. In a tweet, the military's media wing paid tribute to Sarwar on behalf of the nation. Major General Babar Iftikhar said Sarwar's sacrifice will inspire many generations of defenders. South and North Korea have restored their hotlines after over a year in a bid to rebuild strained ties. The North unilaterally severed them in protest against anti-Pyongyang leaflets in the South. The South Korean president's press secretary said leaders of the two states have exchanged multiple letters since April. In a statement, Park So-hoon said Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un agreed to restore the hotlines as the first step. He added they also agreed to regain trust as soon as possible and foster progress on bilateral relations. North Korean state media termed the move as a big stride in recovering mutual trust and promoting reconciliation. Meanwhile, in Pyongyang, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un marked the 68th anniversary of the Korean War armistice. Beijing has opposed the recent remarks by British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace, remarks on the South China Sea. During a visit to Vietnam, Wallace rejected China's territorial claims in the area and backed a 2016 tribunal ruling. In a statement, China's embassy in the United Kingdom said these comments disregard historical merits and objective facts. A spokesperson said the irresponsible remarks sow discord among regional countries and undermine peace. Beijing also termed the tribunal ruling on the South China Sea as illegal, null and void. The embassy rejected allegations that freedom of navigation is under threat in the maritime passageway. Brazil has recorded more than 500 coronavirus deaths and nearly 19,000 new cases overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.1 million lives and infected over 194 million people. More in this report. Concerns over surging coronavirus infection due to the Delta variant have prompted the world to reconsider the path to post-pandemic normalcy. The UN has warned that pandemic is hitting conflict-ridden and impoverished countries much worse this year than in 2020. Amid rising vaccine inequalities, the World Bank announced a financing mechanism for developing states to purchase vaccines collectively through the COVAX facility. Over in the United States, a new study has found that a number of COVID-19 cases in the country may have been undercounted as much as by 60%. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has announced an initiative to ban discrimination against people disabled by long-term symptoms of COVID-19.
And today, finally, I'm proud to announce a new effort, the first of its kind, to help Americans grappling with long-term effects of COVID-19. That doctors call long COVID. Many Americans who seemingly recover from the virus still face lingering challenges like breathing problems, brain fog, chronic pain, and fatigue. These conditions can sometimes rise to the level of a disability.
In Europe, Russia has given the green light for the clinical trials combining a shot from the AstraZeneca with a Sputnik V vaccine. Cases fell in the United Kingdom for the 6th day running to nearly 25,000, the lowest in 3 weeks. However, in Spain, new coronavirus infections continue to rise.
We are still seeing significant differences among the different age groups, and that is without a doubt due to the vaccination in people over 40. Now, the 14-day incidence rate is around 700 per 100,000 inhabitants in Spain.
In Australia, Victoria State has announced to lift a strict lockdown after curtailing the spread of COVID-19. However, neighboring New South Wales faces an extension of restrictions after daily cases hit a 16-month peak. Tunisian President Kais Saied has ordered a month-long nighttime curfew, banning the movement of people and vehicles between 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Pakistan has registered 39 more coronavirus deaths and over 3,200 cases in the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the death toll has risen to 23,087. The country's positivity rate has declined to 6.6%. The country has so far logged more than 1,011,000 cases. More than 928,000 people have recovered. Of about 60,000 active cases, over 2,700 are in critical condition. Besides, Pakistan has received 3 million more doses of the American vaccine Moderna through the COVAX facility. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In India, 6 police officers and a civilian have been killed in clashes over a border dispute between Assam and MIZORAM states. More than 70 others were hurt as tensions on the border escalated. Central forces have now been deployed in the area to bring the situation under control. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma said 6 Javans died while defending the constitutional boundary. MIZORAM Chief Minister Zoram Thanga said his government deeply regrets the needless injuries. This latest clash was the culmination of tensions simmering between locals of 2 neighboring villages. A recent encroachment drive by the Assam police is believed to have added to the tensions. For more on this, we are joined by Mr. Shahzad Chaudhry, former ambassador, speaking to us from Islamabad. Thank you so much for speaking to Indus News, Mr. Chaudhry. Now, Mr. Chaudhry, we haven't seen any violent clashes over this issue in a long while. Do you believe Prime Minister Narendra Modi's divisive and aggressive approach is shaping the tone in India? Has anything to do with this flare-up?
Yes, unfortunately, it seems so because Narendra Modi's tenure the two tenures of his first and the second tenure has only given rise to extreme polarization in the Indian society. And many underlying and simmering feuds and disputes have begun to emerge as very prominent ones, as is evinced by the recent, in fact, the ongoing saga at Mizoram and Assam. So yes, it's very obvious. The land itself, the seven states, the seven sister states, as they call these 7 states which are enclosed in that Assam area, also has a history of insurgency, and so therefore it is always on a boil, sort of a boil, simmering, and so therefore the moment the attention goes haywire in terms of Mr. Modi's central focus being diverted to internal turmoil within India, to his Hindutva mandate and his agenda for the Hindutva, and then his external manipulations of geopolitics within the region and against Pakistan. Obviously, the attention is off, and the Interior Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, who's responsible for this kind of control over states and their responsibilities and their problems, is unable to do so. So yes, I agree with you that the polarization that Mr. Narendra Modi's poor politics and bad politics and toxic politics has created has led to this kind of an emergence within the Indian state. Although states will have problems with each other, but these are not something that are external to India. But when you begin to see these things emerge within India, obviously you realize the amount of toxicity that has gone into the entire body politic.
Now, Mr. Chaudhary, ever since coming into power, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has been largely focused on anti-Pakistan propaganda and the ops. The EU Disinfo Lab and the Kulbhushan Jadhav are some of the examples. Do you believe that in doing so, major issues inside India, like state boundary disputes and separatist movements, due to the discrimination, have been ignored? And are they aggravating?
Yeah, surely 1/3 of India is under an insurgency at any given time. That's a huge amount of India, a space that is covered by Maoists and other insurgencies that are blotting India's landscape. And unfortunately, rather than focus inside India, India and its governments and its prime minister's focus is external, towards Pakistan, towards Kashmir, towards Afghanistan, and Bhutan, Nepal are the other two very recent areas of focus of Indian intransigence, as well as the fact that Myanmar is under no sort of secure position as far as India is concerned. So when you look at the surrounding areas of India and the neighbors of India, India emerges as the main source. And Mr. Modi and his government's focus towards creating more trouble and more strife within the regions of bordering India also means that polarization within India and, of course, the troubles within India will also begin to take head. And that is very obvious. And you heard that, and you mentioned that, the Disinfo Lab and the Kulbhushan Jadhav issue and many other things that India has been generating out of the Afghan soil towards Pakistan all point towards the fact that rather than focus inside, India's focus and Narendra Modi's focus remains outside, and that is what is giving space and creating gaps within the Indian society and the body politic for these kind of problems to emerge.
Mr. Chaudhary, the Chief Minister of both Assam and Mizoram have been asking Union Home Minister Amit Shah to intervene and end this crisis that had been brewing for almost a month now. Why do you think the BJP government in the center ignored this? Did they misread and underestimate the situation?
Yeah, Home Minister has been busy, following or pursuing the agenda and implementing the agenda of Hindutva all across India. Just in Kashmir, for example, in the recent Eid, when the sacrifice of animals is a part of the ritual, Muslim Islamic ritual on Eid al-Azha, there was an order that came out of the Home Ministry banning the sacrifice of animals. Now, you're stopping a segment of the society or a segment of Indian population from pursuing and following their religious responsibility. No nation that calls itself democratic as well as pursuing or following the human rights standards of the world will ever permit this. So, but that happened. Luckily, some sense prevailed, and there was a backlash, and therefore they had to call it off. So I think Home Minister is busy doing these kind of things, looking at how the courts can be manipulated towards giving the Hindus a greater right over Ayodhya and those kind of issues. So Mr. Amit Shah is actually the emblem of the RSS and the focus of Mr. Modi, and you see that in the person of Amit Shah. And therefore, obviously, he has less and less time for other issues within the nation.
Mr. Shahzad Chaudhry, thank you so much for speaking to Indus News. Now moving on, Tunisia's main political parties have accused the president of staging a coup after he sacked the prime minister and suspended parliament. Kais Saied, who also dismissed the defense minister, says he acted per the constitution. The move followed violent mass protest over the government's handling of coronavirus and the economic turmoil. Clashes among Said's supporters and opponents continued on Monday in Tunis. They threw stones at each other outside the legislature, which has been barricaded by troops. Calls are now growing from the international community for restraint. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has urged the United States to remove all unilateral sanctions and tariffs as soon as possible. Wang met his U.S. counterpart Wendy Sherman in Beijing. He said that Washington should not defame or try to overthrow China's system of socialism. On matters involving Tibet and Hong Kong, he said the United States must not harm China's territorial integrity. Earlier, Sherman met China's Vice Foreign Minister Xi Feng, who held the United States responsible for the stalemate in bilateral ties. She said Washington portrays Beijing as an imaginary enemy to reignite a sense of national purpose. At least 57 migrants are presumed dead as their boat capsized in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Libya. The UN Migration Agency says 18 people have been rescued by coast guards and fishermen. Spokesperson Safa Mishaili said that the boat left Libya's western coastal town of Homs with 75 migrants on board. She said survivors reported at least 20 women and 2 children among those who drowned. She said the vessel reportedly stopped due to an engine problem and then capsized amid bad weather. American billionaire Jeff Bezos has offered $2 billion to NASA in exchange for a moon mission contract. His company, Blue Origin, is seeking to make an air spacecraft designed to land astronauts back on the moon. In a letter, Bezos said Blue Origin will waive payments in the current fiscal year and the ones after that up to $2 billion. He said the company will also pay for an orbital mission to vet the United States Space Agency's technology. Bezos noted NASA's short-term and long-term lunar ambitions will be delayed without competition. Meanwhile, SpaceX just scored another major contract to launch NASA's Jupiter moon mission. In the United Kingdom, a 19-year-old is paving the way for girls in STEM with plans to set records for the youngest woman to fly solo around the world. More in this report.
Belgian Zara Rutherford sets off on her 32,000-mile journey in her Shark ultralight plane on August 11. Once complete, she will also become the youngest person to fly the world's fastest microlight aircraft around the world.
So growing up, I didn't really see many female pilots or female computer scientists. Those are two of my passions, and it's quite discouraging when there's no one that can relate to you that does any of those things. So then I wanted to fly around the world, hopefully have other girls see me and think I'd love to fly one day too.
Rutherford's parents, Beatrice Desmet and Sam Rutherford, are both pilots themselves. While her father was excited, her mother says she had mixed feelings when her daughter announced her gap year plans.
Obviously mixed feelings. When she first told me about it, my heart skipped a beat. It took me a bit of time to digest, and now I'm so proud and fully behind her. But as I said, mixed feelings.
The teenager will be funding the trip herself with the help of sponsors and hopes to complete the journey in around 2 to 3 months.
Shares in the Asia Pacific are trading mixed as major Chinese tech stocks in Hong Kong remain under pressure. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is leading the losses, diving over 2%. Meanwhile, stocks in mainland China have slowed over 0.5%. However, Japan's Nikkei 225 and the ASX 200 in Australia have gained nearly 0.5%. Seoul's Kospi has also edged up marginally. It's now time to take a look at the weather updates from around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.